Good afternoon, my name is 𝘧𝘪𝘳𝘦𝘴, Quelfire. Welcome to Meet the Contractor series. This is to give contractors an opportunity to express some of the challenges as well as some of the opportunities, things they have discovered out in the field, give them an opportunity to air them and talk about them on this platform. Welcome, Phil. Thank you for popping along.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the series.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself, your company, and tell us a little bit about its history, GBS?
Certainly. Well, first of all, thank you for having us on from myself and behalf of GBS. Thanks for coming up, seeing the new factory and meeting the team again. It's an honour and taking part in the mini-series. So, first of all, myself, I'm Phil Ratcliffe. I head up pre-construction at GBS Fire Protection. A little bit of my background, without giving away my age, I've been sales nearly 20 years now, the last 10 of which in construction and the last 5 of those for GBS, which is far more interesting, so we'll talk about that, shall we?
Okay.
So yeah, GBS started with Valerius and Thomas, our 2 directors, in Thomas's summer house, but with huge ambition. Fortunately, we've grown tremendously since then, year on year, which has allowed us to have our head office in London, another office up in Derby, which has allowed us to cover the whole of the UK and Ireland, anything from a small project to 7-figure contracts. We are a passive fire protection specialist. However, what we've tried to do is diversify as much as possible, and we've got as many appendixes as we can, which has allowed us to be the one-stop shop for the client. We can cover almost everything. Yes, we do fire protection in the traditional sense, bat, mastic, colours, wraps, compounds, but we can also do intermescent, cementitious, we can do encasement works, fire curtains, and everything else in between. So we want to be that single point sign-off for any client.
Good. Yeah, thank you, Phil. Your company certainly has grown, hasn't it, tremendously. Just from the time I've been seeing you, I've noticed that growth in GBS. Interesting you mentioned the Derby office. I was driving through Derby the other day and looked to the right-hand side and I thought, that's a GBS logo.
All its finest, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I thought next time we're in Derby, I'll pop in a GBS Derby.
Please do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been phenomenal. Every single year, it's been a steady but really comfortable growth. And I think that's a testament to Thomas and Valerius, how they've set up the company. They've taken on board lots of people that they've worked with previously. Right across the board, management, with the exception of myself, cue the pen pusher comments, but everyone's been on the tools. So we know how to price a job. We know how to manage a job. We can foresee issues before they actually become to issues. And I think that experience and what we've got within the team is why a lot of our clients are repeat clients. You know, people like to work with people, but they get the same people in and out each time. And that goes right the way down to our operatives. We've got a lot of our operatives that have been with us since day one.
I see.
So, you know, even when we move on to the next site, the next job, whether that QS changes company, the site manager's with somebody else, they ask for the same operatives. They pick up the phone, they speak to the same management. And I think that really helps because they know what they're going to get with us.
Yeah, that's good. Just what you're saying, you can't buy experience, can you?
No.
Experience is so critical in getting the job done right and giving the customer confidence that you're doing the right thing. What types of projects do you normally work on, Phil?
Is there a type? Absolutely everything.
Sectors?
So yeah, we'll do everything from residential, new build, refurbishment, and then right the way across the board. So commercial, we've worked on hospitals, jails, MOD, film studios, manufacturing facilities. As I said, if you're building, then we can help.
You're there.
And with every string to our bow as well, within passive fire protection.
It's quite a wide range of different sectors, and as you say, every building needs fire stopping, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so. So it's good that, you know, wherever a client moves to, whether they change their build type, we can still assist.
Yeah, adaptable.
Adaptable.
It's good. What would you say sets you apart in the fire stopping industry?
As a company, I think that exactly it is the experience, like I touched on earlier. A lot of the team have done the job, so you know you can't buy that when it comes to pricing it, to understanding the requirements, to managing the job itself on site, and again, kind of just these working relationships that we have. I think, you know, hopefully we've got a good working relationship with yourselves, with manufacturers.
That's good. And that's what one of the feedback I've had actually about GBS is consistency. And that is so key, isn't it? In standing out in the fire stopping industry, is that consistency of quality coming through.
Yeah, very much so. And I think consistency, integrity, you know, it's an ever-evolving industry, and a lot of people are keeping up and many are kind of falling by the wayside. And I think that's what sets us apart from, you know, many others, is that we've got the knowledge, we've got the experience, and as I said, clients ask for us back. You know, a vast amount of the projects that we're on at the minute is repeat custom.
Yeah.
And we're very good at retention. We're very good at retaining our own staff as well, which is kind of a rarity in construction in itself, is that, you know, a lot of our operatives have been here from the start. Pretty much all of middle management, senior management are from day one. Obviously, we've grown year on year.
Low staff turnover.
People in, but there's, you know, people don't leave, or very rarely, because of what we're doing. You know, people want to be a part of this, which I think is a real, you know, what we want.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you said earlier about it's an ever-evolving industry and things are moving. What would you say are some positive changes happening in the industry at the moment?
I think it is so true. I don't think any other industry, any other sector within construction is moving as fast as fire protection, which is a great thing. You know, the conversations that we had even as little as 2 years ago, where you get the phone call and it's, can you come and have a look at some fire stopping? We didn't think about it. We haven't got a budget for it, and we need it doing yesterday. Whereas now, you know, we've been in conversations, me and myself, Adrian, you know, talking about Gateway 2 submissions. So we're at design stage, you know, which is, it needs to happen more of. We want to be involved more at the design stage. We want to be able to design out issues that we see every single day on site. We want to be having, you know, this open dialogue with contractors, designers, manufacturers, other trades as well. So we can get to site, and there's so many less issues to be there.
Yeah.
You know, makes our life easier, makes everybody's life easier. And it keeps the program on track as well.
Yeah.
You know, how many times do we go back over something because there's a cable in the wrong place, there's a pipe too close to each other, there's the detail isn't there. So yeah, I think we've still got a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but certainly the conversations are changing.
I agree, and I think, excuse the pun, but it's a slow burn, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
But you're dead right, it is changing, and that early engagement, we've seen a lot more of it as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
We get approached by a lot more customers to help them with regards to early engagement, which to us gives us the sense that yes, the industry is positively changing, looking towards getting things designed right. So as we say, you know, the design in M&E service runs with compliant fire stopping in mind, rather than how you've been used to, where you turn up at a project, the M&E service runs are in place and you can't fire stop them because they're not compliant. That's a positive change. Yeah.
Very much so. You know, there's a common misconception that, you know, somebody will just say, well, just chuck a bit of batter mask in, give it a stamp, and off you go. And, you know, people are starting to understand that if it's not tested, then it's not certified.
That's right.
It's as simple as that. And, you know, that's why we record everything. We come to yourselves. We try and provide design at an earlier stage. So when it gets to site, it's perfect.
Yeah, you can do it. A, it's compliant, but also B, it's buildable. As a fire stopper, you can then install that compliantly, and without your operatives having to work in with very tight margins, etc., it can be done correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. And all parties are happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. What are the biggest challenges that you face as a contractor at the moment?
I think what we've just touched on in that things are evolving, daily, weekly, monthly. We're not standing still, which is great, but trying to keep up with that and trying to understand that, you're on one project and nobody's got a tested solution for it. You're on to the next one 2 months later and suddenly we've got a tested solution, which is great, but it's trying to feed into that and trying to keep up with that. And not to big you up too much, obviously, but the Quail Selector is one of those things that we find is key. I've sat in so many kind of early engagement meetings and someone will come in with a pack of information that is so outdated and you just, you kind of hang your head a little bit. Whereas with the Quail Selector, it's a live link to the most recent test that you've got and everything is in there. So if anything needs to be updated, it's updated live, which is great. And then other things like regulations, the colour books are great to keep you up informed. We're certified by LPCB,
okay.
So we're constantly on the phone to them, finding out what we can do, what we can't do, what we need to achieve. And I think it's that open dialogue with everybody who has involvement and trying to make you as formed as possible, which makes you, better as a contractor as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's good. Thank you for mentioning the Quail Selector. And it is a good tool. It is a very good tool because it gives you all the solutions that are available to you as a fire stopper out there on one tool, if you like.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it as well is on every detail that you open up is that all the information is there. So you get your fire test reports on there, everything you need is on there. And this is one of the challenges that I'm finding going and seeing customers is they often can't get hold of the needed reports that they need for their whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
They have to go ferreting around, trying to find where the reports are, the details are, and so on. Whereas with the Quail Selector and with details, everything is actually just there on one page.
Yeah, very much so. It's easy to document as well,
Yeah.
Like you say, it's very hard to send 1 million PDFs to a contractor and say, we're going to do this, and then this one there. Whereas if you've got live links, it's very easy to say, right, this is your letterbox, this is what we're going to do. This is this detail, here's a live link, and like, as you say, onto the test certification, and everything is in one nice, neat little bundle that they can then pass to someone else and pass to somebody else, so everybody's on the same page with it.
Yeah, that's good. That live link is a good thing you mentioned because just post that into your contract documentation, and as you said, it'll always take you back to the latest version of that.
Yeah.
It gives you that golden thread of information as well.
Which is key.
Absolutely. Are there any misconceptions around fire stopping that you'd like to get cleared up?
Many.
Here's your opportunity.
A lot of people, certainly on old builds, I think, is that, just chuck some batten mastic in and we're done. And off we sail into the sunset. And it's just often not the case. There's many instances where there is no tested solution. We as a company will exhaust every avenue until we've found or tried to find a test solution that we can certify, because that's ultimately the best way of doing it. But in many, certainly as I said, on existing build, it just doesn't exist. Nobody's tested for that particular scenario yet. And sometimes it's quite hard to relay that back to a client, is that said, you can only do so much. If there isn't a test for it, it's not tested. It can't be certified. And I think that's one of the most difficult things, is some people will just say yes, and as you say, boom, batten mastic, goodbye. But it's just not the case, unfortunately.
No. Those days are really gone, aren't they? And
I know,
so. Yeah. I mean, I'm going back 18 months or so. That was often the talk was batten mastic.
Yeah.
Very rarely hear it nowadays. I mean, should we say less and less you hear it nowadays, and that's hopefully with the increase in the need to meet a regulation and that type of thing.
And I think it's
going by the
knowledge
board
as well. I think a lot, certainly tier 1, tier 2, but that's not to discredit anybody else, but they're spending money on training to get people up to scratch because, you know, it should be at the forefront. It shouldn't be an afterthought. It shouldn't be something that we go and look at afterwards. It's, you know, it's right at the top, and people are starting to understand a little bit more of what is required. I assume you get inundated with questions from designers, clients, everything under the sun, and we do too. But that's a good thing. It shows that people are starting to, you know, take note and starting to want to understand.
Yes.
Rather than, you're the specialist, you do it, goodbye. So, yeah. I think,
yeah, it's good, and they want to do it properly as well. And, and what we're saying often in our CPD seminars is that at the end of the day, these are life safety critical decisions.
Yeah.
So we are dealing with things that saves people, you know, save lives.
Yeah, very much
It's
so.
important it's done correct.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I want to sleep well at night, and so do you.
Absolutely.
And make sure that we've done it right, and it's recorded to prove that we've done it right.
Exactly right, and to something that's been tested.
Yes.
Yeah. So if there's a new contractor and trying to get into the industry, what advice would you give them?
I think, like what we just touched on, is do it right. You know, go out, get the certification, make sure that everything is recorded, have integrity. You know, there's I'm sure you've seen many subcontractors flood the market of all size and scale, but hopefully it's more about doing it right. It's more about having tested solutions with adequate fire stoppers. You know, I've seen many a presentation where they say all you need to be a fire stopper is a white van, some mastic and a spatula or whatever. But what's really important is the certification and the insurances and the technical knowledge behind it. You know, let's build buildings to last forever, not a flash in the pan and with a company that's gone in a year's time. So yeah, come in and do it right.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, lastly, how do Quelfire support you with your projects?
You have been an integral part to the last few years of certainly of our growth, and I think that's really down to the way that you conduct yourselves. Our views align quite well. We get a lot of technical support from Alec and yourself, and that really does help. We touched on the Quail Selector before, but I certainly in pre-construction find that tool invaluable. I can talk to designers, I can talk to clients, I can sit around meetings with other subcontractors in there, and it's an easy share that, you know, they want spacing guidance, they want a detail, they want to see how this is done, and, you know, they can see how this is done. And I'm safe in the knowledge that if I send that link, it's up to date. I'm not sending a PDF that I think is the latest version, or, you know, it's the right one. And if anything gets updated, you know, you do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've been a big help, and, you know, I hope you've seen that we've shifted pretty much all of our business to yourselves, just because we feel confident in the way that you're doing things, and the products speak for themselves, I think.
Good, no, I appreciate that. We certainly appreciate working with you, and I think the word aligned is the good one used there. You're very much obviously aligned with Quelfire's way of working, in that we like to do and promote things that are tested. Yeah. And the correct way of doing it. So we're not in business essentially just here to make money. Of course, that's what business is about. We are. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, our concern is to save lives, get the correct things in buildings that will save properties, save people's lives at the end of the day.
Yeah, so, very much so. And I think that's us as well. We're 9 years old this year, but we want to be here in 20 years, 30 years. You know, we're not a flash in the pan that will just do something quick to make someone happy, because often a client just wants a yes. But that's, you know, not the right way of doing things. We want to make sure that it's tested, it's signed off, it's done, and I can sleep at night knowing that if somebody goes and cuts that ceiling out in 10 years' time, that is how it should be.
100%, yeah. Getting there can be a bit difficult, and as we know, the attention to detail is so critical, and that can be a bit of a sweat, you know, to get the detail correct and all the rest of it, but it is so important to arrive in it, what's compliance, isn't it, and what's safe.
Yeah, very much so. And like we said earlier, with these Gateway 2 submissions, and then just people understanding that conversation needs to happen at an earlier stage now, that hopefully these tricky details are still at design stage, you know. A tricky detail when it's built on site is very difficult to change, amend and make right. If it's on a piece of paper, or, you know, it makes it a lot easier to amend, to change spacing, to take something out, to move it, because, you know, that's when it should be done, not at the 11th hour when we're struggling. So hopefully these Gateway 2 submissions, although that they're very early and everyone's trying to get their own heads around it and understand the best way for conformity, but I think that they're really changing the way we look at things and design as well, so which is great.
They're changing the mindset, and it will be a slow burn, I should think. Excuse the pun again, getting that right, but as you say, it will eventually catch on, I think, and be the norm in that sense. Yeah.
And it should, you know, these conversations need to change, and we've come a long way in the last however many years with fire protection, but there's still a long way to go, and, you know, hopefully conversations with people like yourselves and you know, these Gateway 2 submissions, people will start to change their mindset.
Good. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you for watching our Meet the Contractor series. Please watch out for more. Thank you.